What's going on, guys? So let me start this video with just telling you guys it's probably going to come to you. The video itself will be in one part, but it'll be over the span of maybe a couple of weeks, at least a couple of days, because of the work that I'm doing. So basically what I'll be doing in this video is the wiring harness, and I'll just put together all the videos that I do of the wiring harness and put them all in this one. So far I got a little bit ahead of myself. This wiring is the mess that he had running, the previous owner had running the fans on the radiator. Today I also tore out the old coolant expansion tank because that was mounted all janky over here, right in this location in the engine bay. And I've got the new one that actually looks good along with mounted next to the radiator. And then this is all just a bunch of grounds that I'm ripping out. They weren't connected to anything, but obviously they aren't factory, so those are coming out as well. So those are all just mounted to the side of the engine bay there. And then these, I need to follow back to where they come from so I can actually tear them out, because these are going to be completely unnecessary since the fans are going to be up front. Let's see, and then I gotta clean up all this mess, and then let me get in here, clean up all this as well. There goes some tools. Clean up all this as well, which obviously this is gonna be the biggest part, but very necessary. So yeah, guys, just enjoy. Here we go. So I've now taken the ECU itself out and unplugged the ECU, set it off to the side. And now I'm sort of trying to untangle all these wires and figure out where they all go. So as I unplug anything, if I do unplug them, take some masking tape, do the old wrap around the wire trick and then mark down what it's for, because it's tough remembering what all the wires are for, just about near impossible. I'm using a wiring diagram to sort of help me out if it'll load up there. Looks like that. That's for a diagram for adapting a slightly different, a slightly different engine, but it's close enough to where I can sort of get the idea. So I'm using that to sort of check colors of the wires to make sure I know what's going to where so I can mark them. But yeah, I'm just sort of thinning it out. There's a bunch of loose wires from stuff that was deleted off the ECU, like a bunch. I mean, they're all over the place here that were not snipped real short, so basically I cut them super short, and then I'll have to do some, I'll depin them out of the ECU, most likely out of the ECU connector, but I snipped them shorter so that they'd get out of the tangle, and then I'm just sort of trying to undo everything, and eventually I'll probably have to cut everything and I'll resolder a bunch of stuff, but for now that's where I'm at. There's a bunch of wires like this where they're super long, and like this one's a ground wire, so I'm going to unplug this one, mark it as a ground, and then probably cut it short. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a ground right next to the ECUs, because right now all the grounds are running into the engine bay, and that's just a little bit far, making it a little bit more messy. So I'm going to put a ground somewhere in this engine bay, just so they don't have to run all the way in there. And then I'll start dealing with all the wires that come off the battery, and I'll basically eliminate most of those, so only a couple go on the battery itself. So yeah, I'll bring you guys back when I'm at another step. So it's been about an hour since that last clip, and I've gotten a bit of progress done. I think I showed you that I tracked down the wheel speed sensor. I pulled that out. That was down next to the transmission on the axle, so I just pulled that out and labeled it so I could sort of get more organized. I don't know if you could tell, but it's a lot thinner here, mostly due to all this. This is all the wiring just from the, the radiator fans. So this is a huge mess, and it also had, it had a factory relay in it and a factory connector from the factory harness. Since because this was obviously a factory harness and then chopped down, but then it also had this aftermarket relay, just some So I was running 2 relays for the 2 fans instead of a single relay for both. And yeah, so I chopped all that out of there because it was just a huge mess. So I just got rid of all of it. And that was also a huge eyesore in the engine bay. Let me shut this real quick without slamming my fingers in there. And I'll show you with that out of there. Wiring in the engine bay may actually look messier now, but it's actually a lot cleaned up. A lot of this was covered, which is why it might look a little bit messier. So this wire is just temporary, so I can ground out the ECU. So I can move that out of the way. But all this was underneath the air filter, but it's pretty simple. All we got here is just a little relay. That's what hooks up the alternator to everything. And then a few other like miscellaneous wires. I'm not sure what everything does here, but that's not that big of a deal. I think I've got most of it. Figured out most of it. But yeah, it's not too messy anymore. I just need to clean up these few wires that are left, and then I can go back to in the trunk itself and basically take all those wires, shorten them to the correct length, solder them all. If there's any wires, there's a lot of wires in there that the previous owner, like it was like a green wire, and then he soldered a little section of red in, or he crimped in a little section of red. So basically I'm gonna pull that out and then solder in the correct color so that it looks okay. So yeah, that'll be the next step, is just sort of cleaning it all up. So now I've gotten the wiring harness like completely pulled apart, and it's starting to look good. I mean, it looks terrible, but it's starting to look good in my head. Here, let me show you. So this is the fuel pump relay. This is completely out. Everything on here is labeled. And that's just filthy, but everything is on there labeled. Here's that wheel speed sensor, or here's that wheel speed sensor plugged into the ECU up there, the ECU connector. Here's one of the engine connectors that I pulled out. And then here's one of those labeled wires. That goes to the fuel pump relay. Over here that's hanging down, this goes to the airflow meter. I think it's an air, I'm not sure if that's a map, or I think it's a MAF sensor actually. And then all of these wires right here in this cluster, except for this labeled one, but all these ones that you see all these crimp connectors on, basically all those I just need to cut them, solder them, heat shrink them, and shorten them, and then clean all that up. And besides that, that's all there's really got to do in here. It looks terrible, but all of these wires just need shortened and heat shrinked. Basically the previous owner obviously just didn't know how to solder, or just didn't take the time to do it. But these are all crimped and soldered and heat shrink, and it should look way cleaner. The engine bay, I haven't really done anything since the last clip, but just these few wires are I'm gonna have to do the same thing with, and then these wires will tuck underneath there, and I might actually relocate that relay to in here with the rest of the relays. That's just the relay that is for the alternator. But overall, yeah, it's pretty, not too bad. I mean, the wiring harness did work completely flawlessly. The only issue was that it was a mess, and I hated that. But yeah, all this stuff basically just needs to be cut down and heat shrink, and it should be good. It should look a lot better. I haven't quite figured out what I'm planning on doing to mount the ECU. The ECU was mounted just like this, but he had it mounted with bungee cords and stuff, and I want to mount it to where it looks good, and then run the wiring to where, you know, it's basically looks factory. But yeah, that's basically the whole thing. So next shot, I've got to head to work right now, but next shot will probably be I'll probably just start heat shrinking and soldering all these, or soldering and then heat shrinking all these connectors, and then I'll bring you guys back once I'm done with that, and we'll see where she is. Cool. So at this point I've pulled the entire harness out of the car, and basically I did that. I went through and I found these, I unplugged this huge plug. This was the one that went through the firewall, and then I also had to find this plug and unplug that, and then just a few other connections. But it came right out nice and simple. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut all of these and then cut them off of the connector that connects to the ECU as well. And then I'm going to straighten them out, make sure they're not so tangled, strip them again, and then solder them instead of crimp them, and then heat shrink all of that, just so it looks a lot nicer, and I don't have to worry about, because these crimp connectors, they can slip out pretty easily, so I won't have to worry about that anymore. So yeah, and just hang out while I do that, I guess.
into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you, 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 for you. Won't you let the light shine through?
So guys, in the last clip you saw me, I was cleaning up the wiring harness on this thing on the table, and since then I've done a little more digging. I cleaned up that entire loom that I had out, and it's back in the car now, and it's a mess just because it is, but basically the further I dug, the worse everything was. And now I've seen that even the engine loom is full of crimp connectors and is just super sketchy looking. So I've decided I'm just going to scrap this entire loom. So that leaves me sort of with two options. I could go try to find another loom in a junkyard or something, or I could go standalone. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going standalone. I'm going to go with Mega Squirt 2. Stick with the stock ignition system for now, stock injectors and everything, but just run them on Mega Squirt. So I'm just going to rip this whole thing out, so that's going to be the end of this video. But part 2 will be up soon, because I'll be getting, I already ordered everything. Wiring up the entire Mega Squirt system, putting it in this thing. But yeah. So that's the end of this video, guys. Stay tuned for the next one where I'll be doing all the Mega Squirt stuff. So if you liked it, make sure to leave me a like. If you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. Next video will just be me painting this area and then the front trunk as well. So I'll be able to get that video up just probably within the next day or two after I get this one up. But yeah, happy to be getting rid of this mess of a wiring harness and starting completely fresh. So yeah, peace.